The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds against the velvet expanse of space, their light casting faint glimmers on the sleek hull of the human warship Aegis. Inside its command center, Captain Eric Thorne stood tall, his sharp features illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. He was a man who commanded respect without demanding it, a leader whose wit and charm were as legendary as his tactical prowess. Today, however, he found himself in unfamiliar territory, leading an expedition to negotiate peace with the enigmatic Xylorians, an alien race known for their advanced technology and cryptic ways. Across the galaxy, Empress Serena Vale ruled over her people from the opulent throne room aboard the Celestra, a colossal bioship that seemed alive itself, pulsing with bioluminescent veins beneath its crystalline shell. She was young for an empress but carried herself with regal poise, her silvery skin glowing softly under the ambient light. Her piercing violet eyes held wisdom beyond her years, yet they also betrayed moments of vulnerability, an anomaly among her stoic kind. Rumors whispered among humans suggested she had never taken a mate, not because suitors lacked courage but because none could pierce the veil of mystery surrounding her heart. When news reached Earth's Coalition Council about the Xylorian fleet amassing near the edge of human-controlled space, panic spread faster than wildfire. Some called for immediate retaliation, others urged diplomacy. It was decided that Captain Thorne would lead a small delegation to meet with Empress Serena, hoping to prevent what might otherwise become interstellar war. The stakes were high. Failure meant annihilation, success meant survival, but no one anticipated how this mission would unravel into something far more complex. As the two ships approached each other in neutral territory, tension crackled through the air like static electricity. Neither side trusted the other completely, though both knew cooperation was essential if either hoped to thrive. When the transmission link finally opened between the vessels, the screen flickered to life, revealing Serena seated upon her throne, flanked by advisors whose faces remained impassive masks. On the human end, Eric leaned casually against the console, his posture relaxed despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "Empress Serena," Eric began, his voice smooth and measured, "I bring greetings from humanity and a proposal for mutual benefit." Serena tilted her head slightly, studying him with those mesmerizing violet eyes. "Captain Thorne," she replied, her tone melodic yet guarded, "your arrival is unexpected. Yet here we are. Speak your terms." And so it began, the first tentative steps toward understanding between two vastly different civilizations. Little did they know, this encounter would spark changes neither could foresee. The negotiations dragged on longer than anyone expected, filled with tense exchanges and cautious probing. Each session took place aboard the Celestra, where the organic design of the ship made every meeting feel surreal. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting colors subtly as if responding to emotions in the room. For Eric, it felt like stepping into another dimension entirely, one where logic often danced hand in hand with instinct. During one particularly grueling discussion, tempers flared when Serena questioned the sincerity of humanity's intentions. One of her advisors accused the humans of espionage, citing intercepted communications suggesting covert operations near Xylorian borders. Eric countered calmly, explaining that those missions were purely exploratory, aimed at mapping uncharted territories rather than encroaching on Xylorian sovereignty. Frustrated by the stalemate, Eric decided to shift tactics mid-conversation. Instead of launching into another defensive explanation, he leaned forward slightly, locking gazes with Serena. "Do you have a map?" he asked suddenly, his tone light yet teasing. Confusion rippled across her delicate features. "A map," he nodded, a playful smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "Yeah. Because I keep getting lost in your eyes." The room fell silent. Even the ever-present hum of the bioship seemed to pause momentarily. Serena blinked, caught off guard by the boldness of his statement. A soft blush crept up her neck, spreading across her silvery cheeks, a reaction so rare among her species that even her advisors exchanged startled glances. Clearing her throat delicately, she looked away, pretending to examine some data on her console. But the faint smile tugging at her lips betrayed her amusement. "Well," she said after a moment, her voice tinged with shy laughter, "perhaps I should provide coordinates then. Though I must warn you, my navigational skills may be lacking." Eric chuckled, leaning back in his seat. "Don't worry, Empress. I'm willing to take my chances." For the first time since their meetings began, the atmosphere softened. The tension dissolved into something lighter, almost companionable. They continued discussing terms, but now there was a new energy in the air, a subtle undercurrent of flirtation mingling with the seriousness of their task. Serena's advisors appeared uneasy, whispering amongst themselves, while Eric's team struggled to suppress amused grins. Later that evening, during a brief recess, Eric wandered through the corridors of the Celestra alone. The ship fascinated him, not just its alien architecture but the way it seemed alive, reacting to his presence. As he turned a corner, he nearly collided with someone. It was Serena, dressed in simpler robes than usual, her hair flowing freely around her shoulders. She looked surprised to see him, then quickly composed herself. "Captain Thorne," she greeted, inclining her head politely. "Lost already?" Eric grinned, gesturing dramatically at the twisting passageways. "Absolutely. This place is like a maze. Maybe you were right about needing coordinates." Her laughter bubbled out before she could stop it, musical and warm. "Follow me," she said, turning to lead the way. "I'll show you the gardens. Perhaps they'll help orient you." They walked together, exchanging stories about their respective worlds. Eric spoke of Earth's vast oceans and sprawling cities, while Serena described the floating cities of Xyloria and the luminous forests that sang at night. Their conversation flowed easily, bridging gaps not only between species but between hearts. By the time they reached the gardens, a breathtaking expanse of glowing flora and cascading waterfalls, Eric realized he hadn't thought about negotiation strategies or diplomatic protocols once during their stroll. Serena stopped beside a pool reflecting starlight, turning to face him. "You're quite unusual for a human, Captain Thorne." "And you're unusually fascinating for an Empress," he replied, meeting her gaze steadily. There was no trace of mockery in his words, only genuine admiration. She smiled softly, lowering her eyes for a moment before looking back up at him. "Perhaps we can find common ground after all." Their connection deepened with each passing day, growing stronger despite the challenges ahead. Yet lurking beneath the surface lay dangers neither could ignore: political machinations, ancient prejudices, and forces determined to see their fragile alliance fail. While romance bloomed quietly between them, shadows gathered outside the bubble of trust they'd built. And soon enough, those shadows would demand answers neither was ready to give. Back aboard the Aegis, whispers circulated among the crew about Captain Thorne's growing rapport with Empress Serena. Some admired his ability to charm even the most reserved of beings, while others muttered darkly about misplaced priorities. Lieutenant Mara Kale, Eric's second-in-command, watched the unfolding drama with a mixture of concern and exasperation. She respected Eric deeply, having served alongside him for years, but she couldn't shake the feeling that personal entanglements might cloud his judgment. "You're playing a dangerous game, sir," she warned during one late-night strategy session. "Flirting with an alien Empress? That's not exactly standard protocol." Eric glanced up from the datapad he'd been reviewing, raising an eyebrow. "Relax, Lieutenant. It's harmless banter. Besides, it seems to be working. We've made more progress in the last few days than we have in weeks." Mara crossed her arms, unconvinced. "Progress doesn't matter if it comes at the cost of credibility. People are starting to talk, both here and back home. If word gets out that you're cozying up to Serena, it could undermine everything we're trying to achieve." He sighed, setting the datapad aside. "I appreciate your candor, Mara, but let's not forget why we're here. Diplomacy isn't just about treaties and trade agreements, it's about building relationships. Trust. If cracking a joke or two helps bridge the gap between us and the Xylorians, then so be it." Before Mara could respond, the ship's alarms blared, startling them both. Red lights flashed across the bridge as klaxons echoed through the corridors. Eric sprang to his feet, barking orders as the crew scrambled to their stations. "Report," he demanded, striding toward the main viewport. "It's a hostile vessel, sir," announced Ensign Rhea, her fingers flying over her console. "Unidentified signature. Closing fast." On screen, a sleek black craft materialized out of hyperspace, its jagged silhouette bristling with weaponry. It bore no markings, but its aggressive posture left little doubt about its intentions. Eric's jaw tightened as he studied the readouts. "Any idea who they are?" No match in our database, Mara replied grimly. But they're broadcasting a signal, encrypted, likely intended for the Celestra. Serena's voice crackled over the comms seconds later, urgency lacing her words. Captain Thorne, we're detecting unauthorized activity near our position. Have you encountered any anomalies? That's affirmative, Empress, Eric responded, keeping his tone calm despite the adrenaline coursing through him. We've got an unidentified bogey heading straight for you. Stand by for further instructions. The mysterious ship fired a warning shot, narrowly missing the Celestra. The bioship shuddered violently, its defenses scrambling to compensate. Panic rippled through both crews as they realized the gravity of the situation. Whoever these intruders were, they weren't interested in negotiation, they wanted chaos. Shields up, Eric ordered, gripping the railing as the Aegis maneuvered into position. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Mara, hail them again. Let's see if they're willing to talk. They're jamming our transmissions, Mara reported tersely. No response. Serena's voice returned, sharper this time. Captain Thorne, we cannot allow them to breach our defenses. My people depend on me to protect them. I understand, Eric replied, his mind racing. We'll hold them off long enough for you to recalibrate your shields. Just stay close. We'll cover you. With that, the battle commenced. The Aegis unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes, forcing the enemy ship to divert its attention. Explosions lit up the void as the two vessels exchanged fire, their movements swift and precise. Meanwhile, the Celestra pulsed with energy, its living systems adapting to the onslaught with remarkable resilience. Amidst the chaos, Eric found himself marveling at Serena's leadership. Despite the danger, her voice remained steady, issuing commands to her crew with quiet authority. He couldn't help but admire her strength, and it fueled his determination to protect her, no matter the cost. As the skirmish raged on, however, it became clear that reinforcements were needed. Both ships sustained damage, their resources dwindling rapidly. Eric knew they couldn't hold out much longer. Turning to Mara, he gave the order he'd hoped to avoid. Contact command. Request backup immediately. But as the message transmitted, a chilling realization struck him. Whoever these attackers were, they weren't ordinary pirates or mercenaries. Their timing was too perfect, their knowledge of Xylorian vulnerabilities too precise. Someone within the coalition, or perhaps even within Serena's own court, had betrayed them. And as the smoke cleared and the dust settled, Eric couldn't shake the gnawing suspicion that this was only the beginning. In the aftermath of the attack, the mood aboard both ships shifted dramatically. Repairs were underway, but the emotional toll weighed heavily on everyone involved. On the Celestra, Empress Serena retreated to her private chambers, seeking solace amidst the turmoil. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. It wasn't just an assault on her ship but on her trust. Her advisors pressed her for decisions, urging caution and swift retaliation, but she remained silent, lost in thought. Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis, Captain Eric Thorne wrestled with his own demons. The anonymous nature of the attackers gnawed at him, leaving him restless and irritable. He paced the length of his quarters, replaying the events in his mind, searching for clues he might have missed. Every instinct screamed that this was more than random aggression, it was calculated, deliberate. Someone wanted to sabotage the fragile peace talks, and they'd chosen their moment perfectly. When Eric finally requested a private audience with Serena, she agreed reluctantly, sensing the urgency in his tone. They met in the same garden where they'd shared their earlier moments of levity, though now the atmosphere was heavy with tension. The glowing flowers cast eerie shadows, and the once soothing sounds of waterfalls seemed muted, almost mournful. "We need to talk," Eric began without preamble, his expression grim. This wasn't just an isolated incident. Whoever attacked us knew exactly what they were doing, and who they were targeting. Serena nodded slowly, her violet eyes clouded with unease. "I've come to the same conclusion. But identifying the culprits won't be easy. My advisors are already pointing fingers at your coalition, claiming this proves humanity cannot be trusted." "That's absurd," Eric snapped, frustration boiling over. "If anything, this looks like an inside job. Someone close to you orchestrated this, to make it seem like we're the aggressors. Her gaze sharpened, narrowing slightly. Are you accusing my people? No, he said firmly, holding her stare. I'm saying we need to work together to uncover the truth. Divided, we're vulnerable. United, we stand a chance. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence stretched taut, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves. Then Serena exhaled sharply, her shoulders sagging as if releasing a great burden. Very well, she murmured. What do you propose? Eric stepped closer, lowering his voice. We set a trap. Whoever is behind this will strike again if they think they've succeeded in driving us apart. We use that to our advantage. Though hesitant, Serena eventually agreed, recognizing the logic in his plan. Over the next several days, they coordinated secretly, feeding false information through carefully monitored channels. It was risky, dangerously so, but both understood the stakes. If they failed, the fragile alliance they'd worked so hard to build would crumble entirely. As preparations unfolded, snippets of normalcy returned. During one such moment, Eric found himself wandering the gardens again, drawn by memories of their earlier conversation. To his surprise, he encountered Serena sitting by the reflective pool, her expression pensive. She glanced up as he approached, offering a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. It's not safe. Neither is staying cooped up in my quarters, he countered, taking a seat beside her. Besides, I figured you could use the company. Her lips twitched, hinting at a smile. You always seem to know what to say, don't you? Not always, he admitted with a rueful chuckle. Sometimes I stumble into things blindly. Like that map comment, I didn't expect you to blush like that. To his delight, she did exactly that, her cheeks flushing silver. You're impossible, she teased, nudging him playfully. But perhaps not entirely unwelcome. Their laughter mingled, a brief respite from the storm brewing around them. Yet even in those fleeting moments of joy, the shadow of uncertainty loomed large. The trap they'd laid was set, baited with misinformation designed to lure their enemies into revealing themselves. All they could do now was wait, and hope it wouldn't cost them everything. Little did they know, the real danger lay closer than either suspected. Hidden within the ranks of their own allies, a traitor moved unseen, weaving a web of deceit that threatened to engulf them all. And when the truth finally came to light, it would test not only their courage but the very foundation of their budding bond. The trap had been meticulously planned, a delicate balance of deception and daring. False reports of a secret rendezvous between Captain Eric Thorne and Empress Serena were leaked into the ether, planted in channels known to be monitored by factions hostile to their alliance. The bait dangled enticingly, evidence of a clandestine agreement, supposedly sealed in the garden where they'd shared laughter and stolen glances. It was a gamble, but one both leaders believed necessary to flush out the saboteurs lurking in the shadows. Tension thickened aboard both ships as they awaited the inevitable. Crew members whispered nervously, speculating about the outcome. On the Aegis, Lieutenant Mara Kale kept a vigilant watch, her sharp eyes scanning sensor feeds for any sign of movement. Beside her, Ensign Rhea tapped away furiously at her console, rerouting power to critical systems in preparation for combat. Meanwhile, aboard the Celestra, Serena's advisors fretted openly, urging her to abandon the ruse and fortify their defenses instead. This is madness, one advisor hissed during a heated council session. If the enemy strikes again, we'll be caught unprepared. Serena, seated at the head of the table, raised a hand to silence him. Patience, she said evenly, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped the armrests of her chair. Captain Thorne and I have considered every angle. Trust in the plan, or trust in nothing. Her words silenced the dissenters, but the unease lingered, palpable as the hum of the bioship itself. Hours passed agonizingly slow, each tick of the clock stretching into eternity. Then, just as despair began to creep in, the sensors detected activity. A lone vessel emerging from hyperspace, its trajectory unmistakably aimed at the supposed meeting point. It's them, Eric declared, his voice tight with anticipation. Lock onto their signal and prepare for engagement. The enemy ship moved cautiously, clearly wary of walking into a trap. Yet arrogance outweighed caution. Whoever piloted the craft underestimated the resolve of their targets. As it drew nearer, the Aegis and Celestra coordinated their response with precision honed through countless drills. Shields shimmered into place, weapons primed, and boarding parties assembled, all while maintaining the illusion of vulnerability. When the ship launched its first salvo, the trap sprang shut. Plasma cannons roared to life, pinning the attacker between two formidable forces. Caught off guard, the vessel faltered, its shields buckling under the relentless assault. Desperation drove it to retaliate wildly, firing indiscriminately in a bid to break free. Chaos erupted as explosions rocked the void, lighting up the darkness with bursts of fiery brilliance. Through it all, Eric and Serena communicated constantly, their voices steady anchors amid the storm. "Hold your position," Eric commanded, his gaze locked on the tactical display. "We can't let them slip away." "Agreed," Serena replied, her tone firm despite the strain evident in her voice. "My warriors are ready to board if necessary." The battle raged on, neither side yielding an inch. Finally, after what felt like hours, the enemy ship shuddered violently, its engines sputtering as critical systems failed. With nowhere left to run, it broadcast a surrender signal, requesting asylum under interstellar law. Eric hesitated, glancing at Serena's image on the view screen. Her violet eyes mirrored his own conflicted thoughts. "Do we accept?" he asked quietly. She nodded, though her expression remained guarded. "We must. Answers lie within." Boarding parties converged on the crippled vessel, led by Eric himself alongside a contingent of Xylorian warriors. What they found aboard defied expectations. A single occupant, bound to the pilot seat by crude restraints, their identity obscured beneath layers of cybernetic enhancements. As the figure was brought to the Celestra for interrogation, the truth began to unravel, a truth far darker than anyone had imagined. The prisoner, identified as a rogue operative named Caliph, revealed fragments of a larger conspiracy involving high-ranking officials from both sides. Manipulated by promises of power and wealth, these turncoats sought to ignite war between humans and Xylorians, believing conflict would serve their interests. Shockwaves rippled through both delegations as names were uncovered, allegiances shattered, and trust fractured. Yet amidst the revelations, something remarkable emerged. Faced with betrayal from within, Eric and Serena stood united, their bond forged stronger by shared adversity. Together, they vowed to root out corruption and rebuild the alliance, not just as diplomats but as partners in a cause greater than themselves. Still, questions lingered. Who else had been compromised? How deep did the rot go? And most importantly, could they truly overcome centuries of mistrust to forge a future worth fighting for? Only time would tell. As dawn broke over the nebula that cradled their ships, casting ethereal hues across the battlefield-turned sanctuary, Eric and Serena stood side by side on the observation deck of the Celestra. The view was breathtaking, a tapestry of stars and swirling gases, punctuated by the faint glow of their vessels mending their wounds. Yet neither gazed outward for long. Their focus remained inward, tethered to the monumental task ahead. Calitha's confession had laid bare a web of treachery so intricate it seemed impossible to dismantle. Names of traitors echoed in their minds, trusted advisors, decorated officers, even members of Serena's inner circle. Each revelation chipped away at the foundations of their respective societies, exposing cracks that ran deeper than either had dared imagine. And yet, amidst the ruins, a seed of hope germinated. "We can't undo what's been done," Serena said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice carried a weight of sorrow but also determination. "But we can choose how we move forward." Eric nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. "Transparency. Accountability. Those will be our guiding principles moving forward. No more secrets festering in the dark." She turned to look at him, her violet eyes searching his face. "And what of us? Where do we stand in all of this?" He met her gaze unflinchingly, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Right here. Together. Whatever comes next, we face it as equals." Her lips curved upward in response, a flicker of warmth softening the edges of her regal demeanor. Equals, yes. But perhaps, something more. The question hung in the air, delicate yet profound. For a moment, Neither spoke, allowing the unspoken promise to settle between them. They had started as adversaries, then allies, and now, against all odds, something indefinable yet undeniable had blossomed. Whether it would endure the trials to come remained uncertain, but for now, it was enough. Elsewhere, aboard the Aegis, Lieutenant Mara Kale observed the developments with mixed emotions. While she respected Eric's leadership, part of her worried about the implications of his growing attachment to Serena. Humanity's history was rife with examples of leaders whose personal entanglements clouded their judgment, often with disastrous consequences. Still, she couldn't deny the tangible shift in morale among the crew. Seeing their captain find solace, and perhaps love, in the most unexpected of places inspired a sense of unity that transcended species. "I never thought I'd see the day," Ensign Rhea remarked during a quiet moment in the mess hall. Captain Thorne, smitten with an alien Empress. Mara smirked, sipping her coffee. "Stranger things have happened." Rhea tilted her head thoughtfully. "Do you think it'll last?" Mara paused, considering the question. "Does it matter? Love, or whatever this is, isn't about lasting forever. It's about making the present worthwhile." Back on the Celestra, Serena faced her own challenges. Her advisors, shaken by the exposure of corruption within their ranks, pleaded with her to sever ties with humanity altogether. "They are unpredictable," one argued vehemently. "Their emotions drive them to reckless decisions. Can we truly trust them?" Serena listened patiently, her expression unreadable. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the authority of centuries of tradition, and the conviction of newfound resolve. "Trust is not given lightly, nor should it be. But neither should it be denied without cause. Humanity has proven itself capable of great courage and sacrifice. To turn away now would dishonor everything we've fought for." Her words silenced the dissenters, though skepticism still simmered beneath the surface. Change, she knew, would not come easily. But change was inevitable and necessary. As repairs progressed and investigations deepened, plans were set in motion to address the systemic issues plaguing both civilizations. Joint task forces were established to root out corruption, while cultural exchange programs aimed to foster understanding and empathy. It was a daunting undertaking, fraught with risks and unknowns, but Eric and Serena approached it with unwavering resolve. One evening, as they strolled through the gardens once more, Eric paused beside the reflective pool. "You know," he mused, gazing at the shimmering surface, "maps aren't just tools for navigation. Sometimes, they're reminders that even when you're lost, there's always a way forward." Serena smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of affection and admiration. "Then perhaps I should thank you for getting lost in my eyes," she teased gently. "After all, it led us here." He laughed, reaching for her hand. "Here's as good a place as any to start." Together, they stood beneath the starlit canopy, two souls bound by destiny and choice, ready to chart a course into uncharted territory. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but they faced it with open hearts, and the unshakable belief that love, in all its forms, could bridge even the widest chasms. Years passed, and the bond between Eric Thorne and Serena Vale only grew stronger with time. Their partnership had begun as an alliance of necessity, forged in the crucible of conflict and betrayal, but it evolved into something far deeper, a love that defied boundaries, bridging not just species but worlds. As they worked tirelessly to heal the scars left by treachery and mistrust, their efforts bore fruit in ways neither could have imagined. The joint task forces established to root out corruption became beacons of transparency and unity, earning widespread respect across both human and Xylorian societies. Cultural exchange programs flourished, fostering understanding and empathy between the two civilizations. Stories of shared triumphs replaced old myths of animosity, and for the first time in history, humans and Xylorians began to see each other not as strangers or adversaries, but as neighbors bound by a common destiny. Amidst these monumental changes, Eric and Serena found moments of quiet joy together. They often retreated to the gardens aboard the Celestra, where their romance had first blossomed, now transformed into a sanctuary symbolizing peace and renewal. It was here, beneath the glowing flora and cascading waterfalls, that Eric decided to take the next step in their journey. One evening, as the stars shimmered above them, Eric knelt before Serena, holding out a small, intricately crafted ring made from materials native to both Earth and Xyloria. "Serena," he said, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "You've been my compass through every storm. You've shown me that love knows no limits. Not distance, not difference, not even the vastness of space. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Tears welled in Serena's violet eyes as she gazed at him, her heart swelling with gratitude and affection. "Eric," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you are my guiding star, my anchor in this ever-changing galaxy. Yes, yes, I will marry you." Their union was celebrated across planets and solar systems, a testament to what could be achieved when hearts opened to possibility. The wedding ceremony blended traditions from both cultures, a vibrant tapestry of music, rituals, and symbols that honored their unique heritage while forging a new path forward. Humans and Xylorians alike gathered to witness the historic event, cheering as Eric and Serena exchanged vows under a canopy of bioluminescent flowers. Life after marriage brought its own set of adventures. Together, they navigated the challenges of leadership, balancing their roles as rulers with the joys of building a family. Their children, 2 boys and a girl, were born with traits that reflected their dual heritage. Silvery skin kissed by sunlight, violet eyes flecked with gold, and laughter that echoed like starlight. Each child carried within them the promise of unity, a living embodiment of hope for future generations. Eric and Serena raised their family with love and wisdom, teaching them the values of compassion, courage, and curiosity. The children grew up exploring the wonders of both Earth and Xyloria, learning to appreciate the beauty of diversity. On Earth, they marveled at the ocean's depths and mountains' heights. On Xyloria, they danced among luminous forests and sang with creatures whose melodies wove dreams into reality. As the years unfolded, Eric and Serena stepped back from the front lines of diplomacy, entrusting the next generation to carry the torch of peace. Their legacy lived on not just in treaties and alliances, but in the countless lives touched by their vision of harmony. Streets were named after them, songs sung in their honor, and stories told around campfires about the human captain and the Xylorian Empress who changed the course of history. In their twilight years, Eric and Serena returned to the gardens aboard the Celestra, now a cherished retreat for their grandchildren. Hand in hand, they walked among the glowing blooms, watching as the younger generation played and laughed, their voices mingling with the gentle hum of the bioship. Here, surrounded by love and life, they found contentment, a quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing they had done all they could to leave the universe better than they found it. One night, as they sat together beneath the stars, Serena rested her head on Eric's shoulder. "Do you remember that day you got lost in my eyes?" she asked, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "How could I forget?" he replied, chuckling softly. "It turned out to be the best detour of my life." She laughed, her violet eyes sparkling with mischief. "And here we are, still finding our way together." "Yes," he said, pulling her close. "Here we are." They sat in companionable silence, basking in the warmth of a life well lived. Though the galaxy stretched endlessly before them, filled with mysteries yet to uncover, they knew they had everything they needed right there, in each other, in their family, and in the enduring power of love. And so, their story reached its satisfying conclusion, a tale of courage and connection, of trials overcome and dreams realized. Eric and Serena proved that love, when nurtured with trust and resilience, could transcend even the widest chasms, and create a legacy that would shine brightly for eons to come.